Hey guys, Greg Mihovich here with Max Capable and Full Spectrum Warrior, and today's tutorial is for fight camp conditioning. What I'd like to show you guys today is a single leg bridge variation. It's a fairly basic variation, but it's going to do a lot of good things for you. First of all, it's going to help you to identify and teach you how to fire your hamstrings and your glutes, which is a huge part of your posterior chain where you generate power from. Second, it's going to help you to improve your mapping between your hip, your hamstring, your posterior chain, your lower back, and your ankle. And mapping, think of it as like a GPS. The finer the GPS is, the more detail it shows about the corners, street corners and signs and different street layouts, the easier it is for you to find the correct address. Same thing for your brain. The better your mapping is, the easier it is for your brain to distinguish between different parts of your body and give you more specific, more targeted commands. So it ends up being, you end up having much finer control of your movement. And one more thing is going to happen when you're doing this exercise. You're going to be also strengthening your posterior chain in its end range of motion, as well as teaching yourself to fire your posterior chain even when your knee or your ankle is in less than ideal position, which is a common thing in combat sports. So you're going to improve your hip extension. You're going to help yourself to stabilize your lower back. You're going to lengthen your hip flexor under load. And without further ado, let's give it a try. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to start in kind of like a jiu-jitsu guard, kind of like an open guard, seated guard position. Okay, I'm going to be on one hip, my leg will be tucked in. If you have any type of, if your lower back is really tight and you're really crunched in when you're doing this, it's not a bad idea to maybe put a couple pads under your butt or something like that, a couple of maybe big kick pads or something like this to elevate your hips off the ground. This will make you round off less and a bit more comfortable when you're doing this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my foot flush on the floor, so the entire surface of the bottom of my foot is touching the floor as much as possible. I'm going to hug my knee like this, and first, to just figure out what's going on, I'm going to sway my knee side to side. This actually what we're not going to do. The reason why my hands are going to be touching my knee is not so they hold it with some sort of like a lot of tension and prevent it from moving, but rather they give my brain tactile feedback that if the knee does move, that's it lets me know that, and I stop that. So again, the knee stays put, it stays in this position. I can also use like 2 fingers, something like this, to illustrate that point. Now let's pay attention to the ankle. What's going to happen is, imagine there's like a sheet of paper right like this, like A4 sheet of paper, like a printed piece of paper, something like that, and somebody's trying to seal it this way towards the inside of my body. So as they attempt to drag that sheet of paper from underneath my foot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt my ankle to the inside. So I'm going to create more pressure on the inner edge of the ankle. Notice that happens without my knee jerking to the inside, or my toes lifting off, or my foot rolling this way. So one more time. I tilt my ankle, relax it. Tilt my ankle, relax it. Keep a decent posture right here. Again, touching my knee so I give my brain tactile feedback if I'm moving that knee or not. And all I want to do is just to move that ankle. And that movement is not much, so don't be too greedy. Don't try to like set some sort of a record and move the knee. You're gonna be doing the wrong thing. Think of this as like from a shooting world, we just learning how to, use the trigger finger, and the rest of the body stays put. So just the proverbial trigger finger as we move the ankle only, tilting it to the inside, creating the pressure along the inner edge of the foot. And as we're doing it, it's very important that as we're tilting the ankle, it's not just the front of the ankle or the back, it's both. So I'm trying to create pressure on the inside edge of the heel as well as the inside edge of the foot right here. So the whole thing is tilting this way. Again, the motion is not much, it's millimeters, but down there a millimeter is a mile for your nervous system. So about 20 times or so. Let's switch sides. Same thing. You can do this a little bit. Okay, I'm not gonna do that. Knee stays, okay? I'm gonna set very strict standards, so even this much is not good enough. So knee is not gonna move. One more way I can iterate that point is that it's more important not to move what you're not supposed to move rather than move what you're supposed to move. In other words, I'd rather you think real hard of tilting your ankle, and even if nothing is happening, I wouldn't want your knee to be twitching to the inside. So even if nothing is moving, I'm just thinking real hard that I want to move my ankle only. That's better than when you give the command for the ankle to move, your knee is twitching. All right. If you can, give the ankle a go. If not, just think about it again. Just give it a proper intention. Think of the meaning of the word intention. And just practice it about, I don't know, 15, 20 times. And we're gonna move on to a much harder exercise. All right, so we got this under control. Let's move on. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna find a piece of floor property. Just gonna lay down. Okay, I'm gonna hug my knee to the chest. The reason why I'm hugging my knee to the chest is I want to eliminate as much as possible the lower back movement. When my knee is away from my body, I'm a little bit easier for me to articulate my lower back. When I'm gonna bring my knee in, it's gonna be easier for me to tuck my pelvis and keep my lower back stable. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to really fix this point in space with tension, the appropriate tension from the right body parts, which I'll discuss with you in a second, and then move from my hip, from the back of the thigh. So I'm gonna bring my knee in. For most people, 2 hands is good, but sometimes it causes you to really distort if the upper back and the shoulders are a little tight, and it causes you to kind of be like this. So for some people, 1 arm is good enough, the same side, and then the other arm is here. It kind of gets them out of this whole position, which is not very good. So if you're here, that's good. If you're here, that's good too. From there on, what we're gonna do is we're gonna tuck the pelvis, we're gonna shorten the abs. So the length of my abs from this point to this point is going to shorten, okay? And I'm gonna pull the top edge of the pelvis up to my rib cage. Pelvis is gonna tuck under, which is gonna also shorten my hamstring a little bit and tense up my glute. What I'd like to do is I'd like to line up my shoulder, hip, which obviously they're kind of lined up unless I'm tilted, then my knee and my ankle in one line. So that would be a mistake. See how my knee is kind of hanging out to the side? I'm gonna bring my knee to the midline. So now they're all lined up like this. My foot is flush on the floor, not too far, not too close, kind of like middle ground. Again, pelvis tucked. And I'm gonna start lifting my hip up as I drive my knee forward over the ball of the foot. The focus is on maintaining the pelvis tucked so my back does not articulate, and then drive my knee forward rather than lift my hip up and over this way. Then I'm gonna retract my knee back as I keep the pelvis tucked and my knee to the chest. Again, protract my knee forward, retract my knee back as I maintain the pelvis tuck. You can kind of tap your abs right here, if you wish, to remind yourself about the constant ab tension in order to stabilize that back so you can extend your hip and drive it into the ground. We're gonna do about 10 of those, so 10 times. Again, because my pelvis is stuck, for my body type and body size, my edge of my butt is not actually even touching the floor, you see, because the pelvis is rotating under. So it depends, you know, how big you are, what's your body size and body type, but those are just approximate guidelines. Again, the pelvis is stuck the whole time. Then on the 10th one, we're gonna stay up. So my pelvis is stuck, my abs are short, my inner edge is on the ground. Maybe you can come around a little bit and show from this angle. So the inner edge of my foot is on the ground. I'm trying not to roll my foot. I keep my pelvis tucked. I'm extending this bone this way over the ball of my foot. I'm gonna open up my knee to the side and then bring it back to the middle. Open up my knee to the side, bring it back to the middle. This would be wrong. So I want to create pressure into the edge of my foot, and then I'm gonna open the knee out against that pressure as I'm tucking the pelvis and driving my knee forward over the ball of the foot at the same time. We're gonna do 10 of those. And on 10th one, we're gonna keep the knee open and we're gonna start collapsing the ankle to the inside. What we practiced before unloaded. I'm gonna make sure that my pelvis is tucked, my abs is tight, my knee stays open, doesn't jerk back to the inside, inner edge stays against the floor, I don't roll it, and I tilt the ankle the best I can. 10 times. I'm gonna bring my knee back to the middle. I can reset if I'm feeling very fatigued, or just can keep going. I'm gonna push down to the ball of my foot until my heel lifts up. So come around this way, please. Push down the ball of my foot, heel lifts up. Push down to go up. Push into the ball of the foot until my heel lifts up kind of by itself. So I don't just lift my heel, I push into the ball of the foot until the heel lifts up. Pelvis stays tucked. and I pull under with the ball of my foot under, like I'm like a climbing a ship with the using like my leg like a hook. 10 times or so, and then we're gonna descend down and shake that leg. You're gonna feel like your hamstring and your glute got a pretty good workout. It's a good idea for you to come up and walk it off a little bit. And as you're gonna walk it off, the idea behind walking it off is that you take this isolated exercise and now you're trying to feel how it feels with you walking around when you integrate into your locomotion. So right now I'm feeling that I activated my glute and my hamstring pretty good. And the subjective feeling I have inside is that my hip is kind of pushing me forward. Now I do lots of these and also all kinds of other posterior chain exercises, hip extension exercises. For me it's normal to walk into, because of the hip extension, and to drive myself forward, my hamstrings and my glutes anyways. But regardless, after that short activation, I'm definitely feeling like my right side, it's almost like there's a little bit of a boost. It's pushing me forward into my walk. And that's a good feeling. And actually that's how your hip should feel all the time, because that's where the power is coming from for your posterior chain. So let's do the opposite side. It's gonna be a little bit of a review for you guys. I'll even myself out, and then you guys can review this and take a look at it from another angle. So let's do it together. I'm gonna get on the floor. I'm gonna hug the knee. Again, one arm or two arms. I'm gonna make sure that our 4 joints, shoulder, shoulder, hip, knee, ankle are in line. So that would be example wrong. Okay, I'm gonna tuck my pelvis, abs tight. Pull in this edge of the pelvis up with my abs to my rib cage. Pull in this edge of the pelvis to the back of my knee with my hamstring, and with my glute pushing in a little bit. All right, I'm gonna hold that position. I'm gonna start driving my knee forward over the ball of the foot, making sure that I maintain that core position. If you're doing everything correctly, you should feel that your core stays stable, and then you're extending your hip. You're driving with this part against the ground, and that's what produces the motion. So we're gonna do 10 of those. Again, every time I try to elongate, reach out. That's what's gonna lengthen my hip flexor and make my glute and my hamstring really contract. I'm gonna stay open. I'm gonna open up the knee. Again, keeping the inner edge on the floor the whole time. So if you come around, and if you watch the inner edge of my foot, you will see that I don't roll my ankle. There's counter pressure to the inside as the knee goes out from the hip. I want to move just the leg. After 10 times, I'm going to leave it open. I'm going to start tilting my ankle to the inside as my pelvis is tucked, and I'm still lengthening this femur this way and holding the leg open. And you will feel your hip is working quite a bit. I'm going to come back to the center, and I'm going to push down to go up. So if you come to the side, you will see that my pelvis stays tucked, and nothing really changes about my body position. It's kind of like a sprint step, if you wish. So I'm isolating this function of the body. Since I'm laying down, it's a little bit easier for me to manage my spine, and it's a little easier for me to understand what it's like to, when I tuck my pelvis under slightly, that it's my hip that extends in the bridge pattern as opposed to my back. And that's the mapping I was talking to you guys about, that you're gonna learn the difference between, okay, if I tuck my pelvis, my abs are strong, this is where my hip extension ends, and this is where my lower back extension begins. It's a good thing to know for your body, for all kinds of things, and then that you use the correct part at the correct time. So now as I walk around, I feel like my hips are definitely awake. I feel like there's a nice drive from my hips. Almost like somebody's pushing me back by the hips kind of this way. Feels good. And now I'm much more likely to use these muscles in all kinds of movements, whether it's a knee, takedowns, sprawls, driving your hips into something, or whatever. So enjoy.